Kia ora tātou, welcome back to the Wargaming Den. Something a wee bit different this week. 2 years ago we ran our first Kings of War weekend down here in Oamaru. I'd met up with Gordon and Josh, and Gordon expressed interest in maybe getting some people together, and I said, I know a few gamers, and we ended up getting 8 of us playing for a weekend back then. So that was the first of our now annual Oamaru Onslaught weekend. So last year it was my turn to organise it. Gordon ran it the first year, I ran it last year. Gordon again took over responsibilities for organising things this year, so I got to play this year. So let's have a look and see what I decided to take. Probably not too much of a surprise to those who have been watching my games against Gordon lately. I've been playing around with the Varangur for a few weeks now, and more often than not getting my ass kicked with them. But I hope I am getting better, and I tried to take a bit of a balanced army, hoping to be able to deal with all kinds of different opponents. So I started off with 2 regiments of the Night Raiders. Been using those a lot. They're kind of like budget glade stalkers, and I find them very handy. The regiment of Huskarls with the Mead of Madness, which has been the whole reason that I actually started the army, using the old GW Chaos Marauder figures. This is the main hitty part of my army. I ended up taking 3 regiments of Mounted Sons of Korgan with nothing special added to them, so they're all just at the base 215 points. I was taking 2 and playing around with the Frost Giant and or the Cavern Dweller, but in the end I decided to go for a 3rd regiment, the 18 hits and the higher unit strength. The regiments give unit strength 3, so I was a wee bit worried about whether or not I had enough unit strength, so decided to go with the Mounted Sons as the final of my heavy hitting units. The regiment of Tundra Wolves, I like these guys. They're a wee bit fragile, but they are zippy with 18-inch charge range. If they get onto a flank, that's 36 dice hitting on 3s potentially, so that's nothing to be sneezed at. The Magus was, again, one of the later additions to the army, and he's kind of modelled on the Elven Archmage with Horse and Boots of Levitation and Alchemist's Curse. And in the end, to squeeze in the extra Mounted Sons, I ended up having to get rid of his Boots of Levitation and his Horse, so he's rocking around with a massive speed of 5 and still being able to cast spells. But again, it was just one of those toolkit kind of things. I thought Alchemist's Curse would come in handy in a couple of games to try and pry open some of those more heavily armored units like siege breakers and things like that. I took a Lord with the Devoted Icon again, adding the wings of Honey Maze to make him zippy is a very popular option. But again, to get the last unit and to get up to 12 units, I had to cut out a lot of magic items and stuff like that. So I gave him the Devoted Icon though, so he's got the stealth aura within 6 inches. That was 20 points, and my thinking being I can place him round the Mounted Sons of Korgan to give them a stealth bubble and or the Huskarls, and so swings and roundabouts as to whether or not to go for the aura of disguise, whatever it is, for the Mounted Sons, but decided to go with this guy instead. Then I've got my 2 Thanes on Frostfangs. One of them's got a Snow Fox, and the other I gave the Trickster Wand, hoping to cut down on some of the incoming spells at times. Yes, I've been traumatized by 2 and 3 Warlocks of late. And finally, a Snow Troll Prime, 120 points, another inspiring unit, and someone that could also act as a little bit of chaff if required. So I ended up with a total of 12 units and 22 unit strength for the weekend. So it's an army that can hit hard, but also is pretty fragile. I've got quite a few units here with pretty low nerve, like the Night Raiders are 13-15. The Tundra Wolves are 13-15. The Magus is an 11-12, 11-13. The Lords are 13-15. So a lot of my army doesn't have a high nerve, so I really can't afford to grind things too much with other people. So let's have a look and see how my army goes. But just before I do, I'll do a quick rundown on the other players and the armies that were present. So we had 8 players again this year. Oamaru's located about 3/4 of the way down the South Island of New Zealand. The biggest city, Christchurch, is about halfway down the island, and we had 3 players come down, Mark, Dave and Eric. So it's about 3.5 hour drive for them to make it down, so I really appreciate that effort. Mark came to the first Kings of War event, and he's brought him along a couple of other players this time, so that was awesome to see. Nigel comes from Timaru, and that's where I was living until recently as well. That's about an hour north of us here in Oamaru. Nigel and I started gaming back in 2001. We went to the first ever Conquest in Christchurch, and after that ran Flames of War competitions for 12-13 years. Nigel likes playing lots of different game systems. He's not tied to any particular rule set or anything like that. He came to the first Onslaught 2 years ago and played this really nice Japanese samurai themed army he's got. Hasn't played since, so came down without any practice at all, put together a really cool army list, and brought a couple of helpers because he's in a wheelchair and needs a bit of support with stuff on the table. So it was really good to catch up with Ollie and meet new Ollie. Had Ollie and Ollie helping him out for the weekend, so that was really cool. And then Wayne, Eugene and Jeff all hail from Dunedin. Met Eugene and Jeff last year at SouthCon, and Jeff came last year to Onslaught as well, and this year Wayne and Eugene were both available as well. So we're a small town. Kings of War is a very small community in the South Island, but it is definitely growing. This is our 3rd year that we've held Onslaught. We've been holding it steady at 8 players each year. We'd like to increase it up to 10 or 12 if we can, but yeah, eight was a good number. Able to do it so that out of town players hopefully didn't get to play the guys they play regularly too much. But yeah, just really good to see people, different armies as well. We've never seen Varangur played here before, and we had 2 armies including mine. I hadn't seen Salamanders before either. And Ratkin hadn't been played either. So yeah, good variety of army lists as well. Let's take a look at Wayne's free dwarf list. I was really not sure what to expect from the dwarves really. The thing that I had in my advantage was mobility. I had a lot more movement than him, but wasn't 100% sure what would be happening. He had a regiment of free dwarf rangers, which have light crossbows, 24-inch range, and also a horde of ironclad, which had the brew of sharpness. That was kind of going to be his solid centre. 2 regiments of berserkers. One of them had a mead of madness, so an extra 1-inch charge range, and the other one had a diadem of dragonkind to give it a fireball attack, which was quite handy as well. 2 war machines. Always hate facing war machines and try to find a way to neutralize them as quickly as I can. Had a few characters. He had a dwarf standard bearer with the Shroud of the Saint to give heal. He had Garrick Heavy Hand, Bannock, somebody or other, who was pretty handy. He has Bane Chant, Fireball, 6 attacks. Not a bad character at all. And then he had the formation, which consists of 3 regiments of shield breakers and Eric the Bold. I was a bit worried that these were going to be as tough as the regular dwarf units, but a lot of these dwarves only had defense 4, so I was hoping that my Night Raiders might be able to do some damage. So let's have a look at deployment and get on and have a look at the game. Okay, what we tend to do in our tournaments is play invade as the first game. It's a bit more to it than a straight out kill, by the fact that you've got to get over halfway to score points. We've been using a scoring system the last couple of years that you get 1 bonus point for each unit up to over halfway, and up to about 5 points, I think it is. So the idea was to get as many units over halfway as you can, but a bit more tactical than a kill. I ended up with a Thane leading a unit of Mounted Sons here. Wanted him to be Chaff potentially. I had the Tundra Wolves, and the Lord here is the one with the aura, so I had Stealthy Aura on both of these guys, and also over here on these Mounted Sons, and they were also concealed behind the Night Raiders, as you can see, but worried about those war machines already. Yeah, I had the Snow Troll, I had my Magus in there beside him. Huskarls tucked in behind the hill again. See a bit of a theme of avoiding war machines, more Night Stalkers, and my other Mounted Sons out on the flank with my other Frostfang Thane. So Wayne split his army into a couple of battle groups. He had the Rangers and Berserkers here. The Rangers are good going through that terrain, and they've got crossbows, so we're going to be a bit of a nuisance. He had good fire lanes for his war machines. Big unit of Ironclad here, and then out wide he had his formation with the Berserkers, and his 2 heroes tucked him back here with defense 6. They were nasty little blighters once we got into the game, but what I was hoping was to try and plink away at one of the war machines and get rid of that, and then see how we deal against these guys here. I wanted to focus fire my shooting as much as I could as well, and I outranged them. So I was when it comes to charges, my Mounted Sons with their 16-inch charge range and my Lords on Frostfangs, I'm hoping that they're going to be able to dictate some of the charges and stuff. And this is a shot just at the start of Wayne's first turn, and that is an impressive old school Warhammer army of dwarves. Very, very impressive. Old Hammer at its finest. We've got our Berserkers here, and then various other regiments as they make their way down. Looking forward to it. And from the Varangur lines, looking down from my Mounted Sons down to the far end. Let's get on with the game. And here's a quick look at turn 1. Now, my apologies because I have no idea which dwarf is which, but Wayne went first, marched the Rangers up into the edge of the wood here. I pushed forward with my wolves. My plan had been on turn 2 to charge them straight at this war machine, but what I didn't do was check this distance here, and I think next turn we might find that I got a tad close to the Berserkers. Put a few wounds on one of the units here with a combination of the 2 Night Raiders and my Magus as well, just trying to focus fire. These dwarves having defense 4, my guys quite like that because I've got no piercing, and so we've got the 3 units marching up here, and the Berserkers going a wee bit further behind. So yeah, there's my Mounted Sons moving. Stayed back here, but I did get into charge range for me with my Frostfang. Moving on to turn 2, I took a couple of wounds here from the Rangers, and sure enough, the Berserkers charged my wolves, but they really fluffed it. I think they did 2 wounds because they were hindered. Lots of attacks, but only 2 wounds, so that was a bit of a get out of jail free. The Ironclad continued marching. I took a couple of wounds over here, not sure what by, but not a great deal of action apart from that lucky break there. And my apologies to anyone watching, because I really can't remember a few of the things that happened in the games, but here we go. This looks like it must be the bottom of turn 2. So what happened here is I threw the Frostfang and the Mounted Sons into the Rangers. Over here, the Tundra Wolves counterattacked with the Sons of Korgan. I think I took them out. And here I charged the Ironclad with Mounted Sons here and with the Huskars, and I destroyed them. And over here, I threw my Thane on Frostfang into one of the regiments from the formation just to slow them down as well. So some pretty good assaults. I did some good damage on this turn. And here we go. Wayne trying to salvage things on his turn 3. The Ironclad have gone, but there's a king with defense 6 there. There's an annoying character here as well that held up my Frostfang for a wee bit. The Berserkers imploded as well, and I've got the Tundra Wolves eyeing up the war machines down there, and the Mounted Sons turning to face there. And also, I think I got lucky with the Frostfang Lord. I may have done some wounds the last couple of turns, can't quite remember, with my Night Raiders, but he managed to take out a unit himself as well. So Wayne's centre's well and truly imploded, as his flank. So things are looking a bit grim for the Dwarves. And this was pretty cool. My Thane got himself double teamed from 2 sides. One maybe a standard bearer, can't quite remember, and one of those nasty little heroes. These 2 heroes with defense 6 ended up being a lot more dangerous than most of the regiments, as it turned out. But I think my Thane managed to see off this particular round of attacks. And this looks like the end of turn 3 from Wayne. So he's continuous advance with his berserkers round the wood. He's got one of his regiments from the formation in the trees and the other one nearby as well, and then the 2 Thanes attacking there. In my turn, I continued fighting in here. May have killed the character. The Tundra Wolves took out the war machine, and my lord on the Frostfang ignored these 2 guys and just charged straight at the war machine and took that out. And my Mounted Sons took on one of those characters, and I threw the Snow Troll into one of the other regiments here, and may have potentially wavered it, if I remember correctly. And my other Mounted Sons are coming around this way as well. So I've still got plenty of stuff. I've only got 3 regiments to deal with that can potentially score. So things are looking good from my point of view. Not so good if you're a dwarf. But then again, dwarves are famous for never saying die. And sure enough, the 2 regiments from the formation flanked my Snow Troll Prime and ended his miserable existence. And I'm guessing now that we're getting into the end of turn 4 or maybe turn 5, the Berserkers, remember they had the Diadem of Dragonkind? They wavered my Night Stalkers down here. I think my other Night Stalkers may have taken off the other regiment, or it might have even been this guy charged. More likely probably this guy charged and took them out. And my Mounted Sons charged in here, did quite a few wounds, but either just waved them or a double one or something. I ended up being stuck and about to be flanked by these guys. But other than that, things are looking pretty good. And just another bit of an overview from the Dwarf turn 4. So the Berserkers are here. That's the 2 units that are taking on the Troll. And I think there's a couple of heroes hammering away at my Sons of Korgan. And those defense 6 characters are pretty damn good. I was really impressed. I think they may have taken these guys out in the end. But yeah, I mean, things are looking good from my point of view. I've got plenty of units on his side, and I'm just trying to mop up these 3 here. Yep, and the Mounted Sons get flanked by a lot of angry Berserkers and also by the regular guys in the front here. So I don't think they lasted very long. And my guys were taking a lot of wounds from those two king type units. They were just nasty, really hard to deal with. And turn 6. Now, I took out the berserkers, but I'm not sure how he didn't kill my mounted sons here. He only wavered them, so that must have been extremely unlucky. I don't know whether or not he clipped here and was hindered with the berserkers. I don't think he was, but he must have really been unlucky not to have taken out the mounted sons. But in my turn, my Frostfang had come across and taken out the dwarves. There's still a little brawl going on here. There was a king left, and that was about it, really. So there we go. It was a really good start for the forces of Varangur on that particular one, and that was a really hard mission, I think, for the dwarves. You know, move 5 versus my move 8 made me being most likely to charge, and by having a long linear deployment, I think he made it even harder from himself. He may have been better to have tried to maybe have a more depth and sacrifice a few units. I was able to just come hitting one regiment after another, and that made it really hard for him. But yeah, as I said, it was not going to be an easy game for the Free Dwarves. But yeah, I really didn't know what to expect out of his army either. So I was very happy from about turn 3, 4 onwards, when things definitely looked like they were shifting in my favour. But it was a great game. Wayne was a little bit unlucky there, but as I said, it was a pretty tough game for his army in the last 2 or 3 turns, especially once I started getting those charges in. So thanks very much, Wayne. That's the first time we've had a chance for a game, but I hope to get down to Dunedin and game against you and the other guys before too much longer. So yeah, there we have it, a first up win to the Varangur.